Hello Science Week and welcome to our session. So my name is Jean and on my left we have my colleague Nicole and we form part of the Skill Capture team and we'll introduce our other panelists in a second. So today we're going to talk to you about diversity and inclusion and if it matters for business and if it does, how do you do it? So diversity and inclusion and D&I, as some of you may know it as, is a very hot topic right now, both for businesses and talent. But the question is, does it really matter for business? And how does it affect our employees in a company where you actively work with the question? So at Scania, the skill capture model is Scania's way of working with diversity and inclusion. And it's a global corporate initiative aiding Scania's shift towards digitization, electrification, and automation.
Our skill capture model allows business areas to focus on the specific diversity and inclusion needs for their business area. So what that means is that what one business area is working on in terms of diversity and inclusion might look different to another business area. It's really important for us to work like this because it allows our managers and our employees to work on projects that add value and impact the way that our business moves forward. Today, Jean and myself, together with Linda and Denise from our purchasing department, are going to share our thoughts on diversity and inclusion, how it affects their work, and how we work with D&I in their business area. So welcome. So should we start off with you telling us a bit about yourselves and a bit about how you work with diversity and inclusion in your day-to-day lives?
Absolutely. So first of all, it's really nice to be here. I could talk for hours. We have 30 minutes now, so we will keep it short. But it's, as you say, a very hot topic.
Yeah.
We work within purchasing. We work for a team called Cabin Electronics. So we buy parts for the actual cabin and electronics of the truck. I would say it's a very dynamic environment we work in. It's truly global. We work all over the world, and it's a complexity out there. We have a lot of disturbances in supply chain, price increases, technology shift, new business models, all at the same time. So it's like a perfect storm, and we are in the middle. But it's very, very motivating, I would say. And in the area we work in, we are 4 teams, and I'm heading one of the teams. It's a team of 10 people. Mm. And last year we expanded, and then we recruited a lot of new people. And then Denise was employed as a purchaser in one of the other teams.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm Denise Santa Cruz. I'm from Mexico, and I actually joined Scania 5 months ago. To the Department of Cabin Electronics in procurement. And yeah, so before I worked for other companies in the automotive industry and oil and gas as well. And yes, in the daily work, just as Linda mentioned, so we have a lot of interaction with different areas inside the company and with different international suppliers. And yes, so about my relationship with Linda, yes, so actually she interviewed me during my recruitment process, and now yes, so we don't work in the same team, but we work in general in the department very very close with this anti-silo mindset.
Mm. Nice. Yes. Thank you so much for giving us that insight into what you do and how you work as well. It's really interesting to hear that you're working in a very global part. Our role is global in that sense as well. But I know, Linda, you've been at Scania a little bit longer than Denise that started last year. So you have different experiences, and that's why we chose you today as well. And we have the manager and the employee perspective, so it's going to be a really interesting conversation.
Yeah.
But when you started at Scania and in your roles, did you think that diversity and inclusion would be a given in the kind of work that you're doing, or what was your perception?
In my case, yes. I mean, since even when I did the job interview, I discussed about the team with my current manager now. And yeah, I would say like even now, for example, in my team, we are out of 8 people. We come from 7 different countries, 3 continents, different experiences and backgrounds. So I would say that makes very fun and interesting the daily work.
Nice.
Yeah.
And it's fun to hear you say that, Denise, because actually when I started at Scania 8 years ago, I would say that diversity inclusion was not on the agenda in an outspoken way. And now, I would say the last 2 years, we have really done a journey. We really started to look into it, and we have done a lot. We are really working hard on this. So now it's really on the agenda on a daily basis. So it's also nice to hear when we're recruiting new people that
I would
they
say
agree.
it's a very important factor, at least for me, and I would say for a lot of new generations to pick when you pick or choose a company that has this topic about diversity and inclusion, that they cares about this topic.
And are vocal about it, I guess, as well. And when you come to the company that you can actually see in action.
Yeah.
Interesting. But if we can switch it a little bit, so you've spoken a little about your expectations on your roles when you started, but from a personal perspective, Denise, you were onto that a bit. But what does diversity and inclusion mean for you personally? I know it means very different things to all of us here.
Should you go? Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, I would say that diversity and inclusion has been a part of my personal and professional journey. Yes, it has given me the opportunity to learn, to grow, to live and work in different countries, in different industries. And yeah, I would say like personally helped me to be more tolerant, humble, and to learn from others. And I would say in general, just to be more human. Yeah.
And for me, I would say it's extremely important. I would dare to say that I would like to work for a company that works with diversity and inclusion. It needs to be on the agenda, and I would say it's on different levels. First of all, I see it on the society level. There's a development in this area, a lot of things that should be done, that needs to be done, and is on the way, so to say. And I would like to say afterwards that I was part of it, that I did what I could to improve in general in business and on society level. And then if you look more on the company level, I would say that I work for Scania. I should always do what is best for the company. And I really believe that diversity and inclusion is so linked to performance. So I see it as my duty to do it, to work with it, to improve and increase the performance. And then also on a personal level, I think it's much more fun to work for a company that are promoting these topics, working with diversity, includes people. So I see it very motivating. Also, where I see we have not reached so far, I see that as a motivation. I would like to achieve results in this area, and I would like to drive the development. So altogether, yes, very important and very fun also, I would say.
Awesome. And I think that's really encouraging for Jean and I to hear this, considering that this is the work that we do in Scania. So that's absolutely fantastic. We started going into sort of the deeper details of the D&I work that you're doing within your business area. Can I ask you to elaborate, in what way do you feel that diversity and inclusion work adds value? Where does it hinder you? And can we ask the question, how does it matter for business and for your team?
And that's a very important question. I mean, in the end, we are here to reach results in a company, so it needs to lead. It needs to be performance connected to it. And I would say it's on two different levels. The performance, first of all, as I mentioned, we work in an extremely diverse environment, so we really need to match up with our personnel who does this every day. And I think it's similar to when you renovate at home, you open the toolbox. If you only have one tool, it will not be so good. The end results, I think we need to have this diversity to match up with the complexity. So I see a very direct link to the actual reaching our results, reaching where we want to be. So that's extremely direct connection. But then also indirectly, I think it's a lot connected to attractiveness. As you mentioned also, Denise, a lot of employees are looking at these questions. We need to stay attractive. That will mean that people stay with us and help us develop the organization over time. It will also, when we recruit, we will get a greater pool of candidates, meaning we can pick the very best ones. And that will then lead to increased performance. So it's these two different connections to performance. But I also would like to say what is really important is you cannot fake it. You need to do it for real. You cannot use it as buzzwords, and then you bring in diversity and they feel like, but we don't feel included. You wanted to do the same thing as you did before. You don't want to use the skills. If you do it in that way, it will actually lower the performance because you will get into frustration and negative performance. So you need to do it for real, then you see the benefits. So that is the way it connects to performance, I would say.
Yeah. That's a very good point. And one of the things that we talk a lot about, which has become a buzzword, but it's very much true and linked to what you're talking about, is the psychological safety and inclusion, and making sure we always nag about this, that inclusion or diversity and inclusion without inclusion is nothing, just like you're saying.
Yeah, and I totally agree with Linda that diversity and inclusion really impacts in a good way in business, but as well when it's not like a priority in a company, I would say that can hinder from achieving as well results. I had one experience in one of my previous jobs, not in this company, not in Scania, in another company, where one of my suppliers was not comfortable doing business with a woman. At the end, we have like a very successful business relationship, and my manager at that time was very, very supportive. But yeah, I would say that right now that we are with so many international companies, global mobility, interactions all over the world, yeah, I mean, like diversity and inclusion should be part of the corporate culture, definitely, and should come from the top management. Because I think like leading with example is the real way when cascades down the organization and really can filter to all the levels.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I think it's a lot easier to connect as well when you see that. Because I think sometimes we can perceive it as an attracting talent kind of thing, but it's in your day-to-day work that you meet these things, and it could be challenges and so forth. So thank you so much for sharing that. But then maybe a question a bit more directed to you, Linda. We wanted to know, do you have any examples of where you've used D&I to your advantage? You said that you see a connection between performance and D&I, and you gave us 2 good examples, but do you have anything more concrete that you could share?
As mentioned, we work very globally, and in a diverse landscape, our purchasers need to be very skilled at handling a variety of tasks. And a day could look like in the morning you're having a negotiation with a German supplier, and then by lunch you're discussing a new technology with a Chinese supplier, and then in the afternoon you talk to a supplier in Brazil. And just one example is that we have all this culture represented at us. And we have seen many occasions where we struggle, which is normal. We struggle with cultures, languages, spoken and unspoken, and then we bring in this competence and we bridge from our situation to their culture. We can create a bridge over, and that's directly a benefit where it improves, and then we can understand and move forward. So that is one very concrete example. I would also say that since the outer world is changing quite fast, you need to adapt quite fast as a company if you want to survive. And that is also, we need people that have a variety of ways of thinking, so we can challenge the current state and really be there and be fast. So that is also one example. One concrete example also that we do is what we call skills capture assignments. So when we assign tasks, we have something that needs to be done. Instead of me as a manager saying, I think you should do it, or you're good at this, because I'm biased. I'm a human being, I'm biased. The brain works that way. We take shortcuts and do assumptions based on history. Then we send them out broadly and ask who is interested in this. We describe the task. And this has been really successful. And many times I have been really surprised by seeing, this person knows this or is interested in this. So that's a great way to use the different skills of people, getting away the biases and be more objective. It's actually this day-to-day was
this situation.
It was a skills capture assignment where we send it out broadly and said, who is interested in diversity and inclusion? Who would like to join today? And then you applied.
Through the skill capture, then I'm participating in this panel, actually. But in general, I would say it's the way that we do things in the department. So normally they put out the activities and the training, so everybody has this opportunity to participate. So that's, I would say, that's part of inclusion, because everybody has the same opportunities and resources as well.
And
Yeah.
a follow-up question, how does that make you feel knowing that your management has that approach to assignments and actively making sure that they're not choosing people in a very biased way?
I think that's super important, and it's really they put in practice the inclusion, because in that way everybody can raise the hand and say, like, I want to participate. Or even, as Linda said, maybe you don't know that someone has some skills, and then you get surprised from the people. So that's as well a really good advantage for the company, because then you get like a lot of creativity and innovation from everybody.
Nice.
And another example is also diversity is important, but inclusion is also extremely important. It's like, bringing people to a party, but don't asking them to dance, then they will leave the party. So you need to make sure people are included. And we have, for example, decided that all the corporate language in our department, at least, is English. And when we write emails, we write them in English. And even if it's to a Swedish person, it might be in the end that you forward it, or, you copy or so. Then the person who doesn't understand Swedish needs to Google Translate, misses out on the context and so on. And it's a little bit more difficult for them then. So that is also a concrete thing that we are doing, and that makes more efficient. You only have to write the email once and so on, and everybody's included. So that is also a concrete example of very easy things that can be done.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I mean, inclusion is really important in retaining talent. We know that from the statistics. And I love that you're speaking about skills and different perspectives and different know-hows. And I think that's really key to our skill capture model, is how do we use collective intelligence to make better decisions for the business. So that's absolutely fantastic. So it's really cool that we've got a manager and an employee here, or from one team. And a really interesting insight that I'd like to know from you is, are there different pressing issues relating to diversity and inclusion when it comes to manager versus non-manager?
I mean, at least from my experience so far in Scania, I would say with my manager and the team, we are quite aligned when it comes to diversity and inclusion. One example is, like, we have a workshop last week to review the way we work and how to improve. And yes, and my manager made sure that everybody was or felt involved and free to share ideas. And yeah, I would say that's super important, because that creates like a safe environment for everyone to participate. And as well, from the purchaser perspective, I think diversity and inclusion is like a really good tool that helps you to navigate in this like super international environment and to succeed in our works.
Yeah, I would say, as you say, the purchasers are in the reality a complex, diverse environment and needs to know how to navigate, not necessarily knowing how to do everything themselves, but using the skills of the others to succeed. So they need to breathe the diversity in that sense every day. And then from a manager perspective, I would say, yes, it's more demanding. If you have a team that is very homogeneous, potentially similar to yourself, then it's easier. It's more difficult to reach the result if you have a homogeneous team, so that is a clear advantage. But just managing the team is more diverse in a way, I would say. And you need to know your leadership. You need to have self-awareness and challenge your own biases when you have a very diverse team. And you need to make sure that you understand the individual needs of this diverse workforce, and that you understand also motivation factors. It could be, for example, if you have meetings, if you have introvert versus extrovert people, they process information in different ways. You need to prepare them differently. You need to maybe be more specific in asking questions to some people. So you need to adapt to this to really gain the benefit, I would say, out of this. And I think it's important to talk about the why. Why do we do things? because the how could be done in different ways if you have different type of people. And you should not bring in diversity and ask everybody to do the same way. You should really sort of use this diversity. So talk about the why, make sure everybody's aligned, and then allow for different ways of reaching that, I would say, is important. And as I think you mentioned also, this psychological safety, I think that's crucial. You need to have a high level of trust and establish this in the team, and everybody should be able to express opinions and raise concerns, because it will likely be more misunderstandings if you have very different values, backgrounds, and so on. But if you can have an atmosphere where people can raise this, you can talk about it, then you get a learning experience from it and develop as a team and mature as a team. But I think the trust is really important for diversity to work.
That's really good. Thank you so much.
Mm.
And I think you touched on some really, really good topics there. You've both mentioned that performance is key in developing the team in terms of how you collaborate with customers or suppliers in this case, and being in a global environment, as many other companies as Scania is, we're learning how to meet other people and making use of the collective intelligence of all our employees as well. But that's the good part of diversity and inclusion. And I think everyone who listens here can understand that we're fans of diversity and inclusion and we really believe in it. But we also have to be honest. And that's the backside of things. You mentioned partly the team aspect and being able as a manager to adapt, which puts a lot of pressure on you as a manager to be in your leadership. But what have been the challenges when you talk about diversity and inclusion? Have you seen any challenges with pushing for that kind of way of working?
Yeah, I mean, one of the most important is if you don't do it for real, it will lower performance because you will create expectations that are never met. But I would say the challenges for us, if you would have asked me that question 2 years ago, I would say one challenge is to go from awareness, because many people agree that diversity and inclusion is probably quite okay. But to go from this awareness into something specific, something concrete, how do you do? Because there is not one easy tick in the box.
To do it,
No, you need to really, it's a journey, and you need to do it for real and really make it yours. We have these models, but then you need to do something with it. So that's where we started, and that was the challenge back then. But I would say now that we are quite good at diversity. The focus is inclusion, and we are doing a lot of different initiatives. So we usually visualize it as a puzzle, all these different pieces we work with: performance evaluation, development plans, language we use, recruitment, and so on. So we do a lot of different initiatives, but we need to go from initiatives into the processes as such need to support inclusion, because I think we cannot relax. We are close to a tipping point, but if we would relax and sit back, it might be that we go back. So we still need to drive it, really. And then I think it would be great to have the processes really absorb this, so they help us. So it's not just driven by initiatives, so to say.
Yeah, and I would say it's not only from the managers and I mean it's in general for all the people in the team or in the organization, because normally I guess diversity and inclusion as well takes you out of your comfort zone because you share with different people with different experiences, different points of view. So as well, you have to be very, very aware and to adapt quickly and to be flexible and to maybe unlearn and learn from others as well. So I would say that those are big challenges as well.
So it not only puts pressure on leadership, but us as individuals as a whole. Which is, I guess, good, but at the same time, if you're prepared for it, it could really give good results.
Yeah, exactly.
Nicole, would you like to add anything there on the challenges part? From an expert perspective.
I think there's always going to be challenges, and it's interesting because we sort of watch teams from the beginning, as they sort of start their skill capture journey, and then how they move along and progress. And it doesn't matter how mature they get, that there are always going to be challenges, and it's about sort of adapting and facing those challenges as we go along. But a quick question, and do you have any quick tips or any tips for managers and employees on how to gauge whether their environments are inclusive check-ins or something like that, or anyone who thinks that they might be struggling with the D&I in their teams, any quick fixes that they could perhaps do?
I would love to give ideas of quick fixes, but it's really, you need to do it for real. I think that's where it starts. You need to do it for real. You don't have to have the answers. I mean, you need to be humble and realize it's not a quick fix. But I think one thing you could start with is that quite many companies start with recruitment. Because that's quite hands-on, and make sure that you have the ads. You can review them. Many different managers, many different genders, nationalities can review the ads to make sure we are not biased or objective or subjective in the ads.
And the ads in English maybe as well attract more people.
Exactly. To look at the language in the ads, that's true.
Yeah.
You can recruit in pairs. We always have one female and one male because we're working with gender equality quite a lot, different nationalities and so on. So that is a quite easy place to start, I would say. And then one quick fix, maybe more, is that you could review all the presentation material. Yeah. What language are we using? We have, for example, said we actually decided on this now. We don't use the word chairman anymore because it basically excludes half the population. I've been asked, do you want to be the chairman? I feel like I want to lead, but I'm not a man, so how does that, what do I answer, you know? So we have decided to exclude that word. You can review the presentations, you can make sure that who is presenting. Are we having diversity? So those are quite easy things to start with. And then you can make your puzzle and look at the different aspects and do concrete activities. So it's get started but those are quite easy areas to start with, I would say.
And as well, I, from my point of view, like like as a person who is looking for a job as well, for example, you have to ask to the companies as well. The companies can realize that how important it is to include these kind of topics and make it part of the corporate culture. And once you are in a diverse environment as well, I think it's like you have to be the change as well. Like you have to be open to really work on that and to ask for that as well. I mean, it's part of as well, not only from the management or the managers, but as well everybody has to participate to be successful in the topic.
Right.
Yes.
I love that. We actually heard a cool example relating to recruitment, where at the third or fourth round, the candidate is interviewed by the team, because that's showing as a trend to be really important for inclusion. I thought that was really good. Thank you. Thanks. That's really good insight.
What about you? What's your tip or quick fix?
My quick fix would be to talk. And to try and gauge whether you are having authentic and true conversations. We also have the inclusion game, and it's one question that we did actually, Jean and I, with our team. The question was, if I keep quiet in a meeting, it means I agree with what is happening. And then you have to reach a consensus as, you know, is this really what you feel? And it was very interesting, and it sparked an incredible conversation that went on for over 40 minutes. And as a team, we had to decide this kind of behavior, what does it mean for us and what does it signal? And it was just a simple question, but it completely shifted the way that we behave in our internal teams. And I thought that was really interesting. So I think just talking just gives you a bit of a gauge, and then from there you can do the work. How about you?
Ooh, good question. I would just say be patient. It's not really a quick fix as such, but be patient and don't forget to ask for extra input. I think that's the key to including people. But I see that our time is running out. You've given lots of really, really good input. So we're just going to end by saying thank you so much for listening. And if you want to hear more or reach out to any of us, just reach out at skillcapture@scania.com. But thank you for listening and for being here with us today.